welcome back to another episode of Omnissiah Approved. My name is Jake, and I am looking at some more of the 9th edition information that is coming out in the Warhammer community. We have a couple posts I've been kind of watching. I wanted to get to enough content I felt to make a video on, because I'm just doing some quick opinions on things, as well as I have some information from the last live stream they did. So this article is put out on the 3rd of June. So 3rd of June, you're looking at at different changes to match play points, and they're talking about the new app. So Mike, one of the gentlemen that keeps showing up on all of these. So hey everyone, today I'll be discussing some key match play changes coming to Warhammer 40,000. Very important things, what they're looking at in the design elements for match play looks to be a combination of story and fairness. So does it tell a cool story? After all, Warhammer 40,000 should be an immersive experience with gorgeous armies on scenic tables. And does it increase the odds of a close, fair, and exciting gaming experience? I like that. It looks like they're really trying to make it to where you can bring the army you want and still have a chance. Because there are some matchups now, and it's always been like this, but there's some matchups now that you just kind of lose based off of the mission. But they've given an example. They had mentioned games at every size. So you've got Combat Patrol, 500 points. You start with 3 command points. Incursion's 1,000, you start with 6. Strike Force is 2,000, you start with 12. Then Onslaught, which is basically Mini Apocalypse, you start with 18. So that's very interesting. I like that you have set command points, and then from the looks of everything, it looks like the way that you build your army will affect your command points. And now, the thing that I've spoken with a couple people that they seem to despise, and more people I've spoken with love this. I have a few people in my local play group that are not fans of what's called the ITC format. I'm a huge fan of ITC. I think it's a very, very good way to play the game. And they have introduced something that I don't care what anyone says, this was adapted from ITC. If you just look at who's helped write the rules for this edition, it's fairly easy to see that. So, secondary objectives. When you are instructed to select secondary objectives, you can select from any of these presented here, in addition to any secondary objectives listed on the mission you are playing. You can score no more than 15 victory points from each secondary objective you select during the mission, and each secondary objective listed below has a category, i.e. purge the enemy, so on and so forth. So, my dogs are running around upstairs, but that's not important. So you have Purge the Enemy, which one of the Purge the Enemy ones is Assassinate. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round for each enemy character you have destroyed. No Mercy, No Respite's another one of them. Thin the Ranks. If you select this objective, keep a tally of kill points each time an enemy model is destroyed. Add 1 to this tally. Add 10 to this tally instead if the model was something. And then Supremacy objectives, engage on all fronts. Score 2 victory points at the end of your turn if you have 1 or more units with your army wholly within 3 different table quarters. And then Warcraft, 3 victory points each time you successfully complete the following psychic action, mental interrogation, So that's going to be interesting, and it's very, very reminiscent to different ITC objectives and ITC missions that we've seen. They then go on to give an example of a mission and a board setup. Once again, it looks really fun. It looks very similar to something that you would see at like a more structured tournament. One of the interesting features, if you look at the top, it is an Eternal War mission, so it was made for matched play, as well as it specifically highlights Strike Force. So if we go back up to the table, Strike Force is a 2,000 point game, so this particular mission in the map setup is designed to function with a 2,000 point match. I like that. It gives you more structure, more of an idea of what you should play to get that balance you want. Another thing that's very important, points increases across the board. Some examples, Cultists are going to go up to 6 points a model, and Intercessors are going to go to 20 points a model. So, yeah, I like that. They've also announced that the day that pre-orders for 9th goes up, they are going to release their own army building app. When that does release, I will do a video going through that, give my impressions on it, and also give a kind of how-to-use thing for anyone getting into it. I'm sure they will as well, but come on, let's have some fun. The next one, this one came out on the 4th. This one's talking about command points specifically. Not really a whole lot here. So one of the things that we look at here is for command points, combat patrol up to 50 points for power level and that. So it kind of breaks it down. The same exact thing it was, that it breaks down power level and points. One of the things that they had mentioned in one of the live streams is that they're going to try to make power level consistent. Power level never got touched through the entirety of 8th edition. So as points cost change and everything, power level got way unbalanced, and it just was not a great way to do that. So I'm glad that they were paying attention to that. Here's an example of the new Force org chart. If any of you have played previous 8th edition, this should not look very dissimilar to you. All the units must be from the same faction, cannot include any understrength units. It's one thing whenever you're playing any type of open play, a lot of the times you could take understrength units and it wouldn't affect anything, you just don't get the models for it. In this, they have to be full strength, or at least not, under strength to be able to actually take in a valid detachment. Command benefits, you get 3 command points if your warlord's a part of the detachment, and dedicated transports, you can take 1 for each of your infantry units that you have taken. That's very reminiscent to older editions of the game, and it's something I do like. So you can kind of look at here, it just gives a little more structure to it, and structure promotes consistency, consistency promotes competition. It's good, I like it. And another thing, the last thing I really wanted to talk about was the command phase. And then this stratagem here. This stratagem is something that makes me very happy in my phase area. But the command phase, something we were curious about how it's going to work. Specifically, in this instance, the command phase allows you to gain command points if you were Battleforged. And then it'll depend on certain stratagems we have not seen yet, and different data sheets and stuff that you can use things during your command phase. So I can see that being interesting, kind of like your general giving orders and stuff like that. So that's something I'm excited to see how it's going to actually play in. Anything that adds an extra level of thought that hopefully won't take forever to do, I'm a fan of. Another thing they do mention is models like Guilliman and those that give you extra command points will still give you those extra command points. So there's still benefits to taking them there. Lastly, melee is probably my favorite way to fight in 40k. I absolutely love melee armies. And this is a stratagem they've shown to kind of help buff melee going into it. For 1 command point, cut them down. It's a core stratagem, so everybody gets it. Use this stratagem when an enemy falls back. Before any model in that unit has moved, roll a d6 for each model in your army that is within engagement range of the enemy unit. For each roll of a 6, that unit suffers a mortal wound. So the fluff behind that is, as they're falling back, they're getting hit by the unit they're melee with, and then the normal I have fallen back penalties will apply. So that's very interesting. Something that I don't think they have shown, and if they have, I have not seen it, so forgive me. Vehicles can fire while in melee. What happens if they fall back? If the vehicle falls back and still has to suffer the cannot shoot after falling back, this is an interesting idea because it makes it very terrible for vehicles to fall out of combat. You're in combat with a group of boys. The boys, if they don't have a power claw or something, are very, very rarely going to wound your Predator, your Lehman Russ, or whatever. So it's just better to stay in combat with them, which means you're not going to be moving for the turns it takes you to kill them. Whereas if you fall back, you're going to take more wounds in the fallback than you theoretically would from being in melee with them. So that's interesting, and if that is how it works, then that would mean that you would still be able to tie up vehicles with melee units. They would just be taking casualties while doing so. Which I think that would be I honestly think that would be a very nice middle ground to keep vehicles being very powerful, but limiting their mobility is a flavorful way to still be able to have your big blobs and infantry units, to have them a way to interact with them and still fight them. So I don't know. That's just kind of my quick impressions and kind of my thoughts on some of the things that I find important. There's been more stuff done on the live streams. I did not catch the last one, so when I get that information, I will do another update video just for fun. But yeah, no, I'm liking a lot of what I'm seeing. It looks like it's taking it towards a genuinely more balanced and competitive sense of a game. And one of the things about this that I think is the real winner here, doesn't matter what level of competition you want to play at. Getting a rule set that is consistent and accepted by different levels of competition across the world, be it Games Workshop's official tournaments, which they are now going to be running around the world, not just in Europe, the ITC circuit, Nova, Adepticon, all these things. If we can get everyone on one page to where everyone is running the same mission set, then you can have your army get really good with it, go play an ITC circuit. You want to go to Nova, just jam in, you've already played the missions, you can still play it. Then a big grand tournament pops up and you can go play in an actual official Games Workshop tournament. It's the same rules. It keeps you from having to learn and juggle all of these different rule sets, which is something that I have genuinely struggled with trying to get into it competitively. Adepticon rules are terrible. I'm sorry, they are. It's just one of those things to where they create an imbalanced environment. So I can take my list for ITC that is a very strong list that works really well, and go to an Adepticon, go to a tournament using Adepticon rules, and my list does not function. And it completely invalidates the time and practice I put into mine just based off of the rule set. Now, some people like that. Some people like having multiple formats to learn, and that's fine. I just think that for the overall health of the game, a growing game, a game that is pulling in more players, it's good to have consistency. It's going to help people play longer, help people get invested in what they're doing. But that is just my opinion. If you guys have an opinion, please leave a comment down below. If you do like this video and like to see more, please hit the like button, subscribe, ding the bell, all that fun stuff. And as always, this video has been Omnisci approved. Thanks, guys.